today we're making sponge cake. So first of all, of course, wash your hands for 20 seconds, hot soapy water. I have already just done mine. And you also need to make sure you're wearing a clean apron or clean shirt, and make sure that you have some clean tea towels for your hands and a clean tea towel for your dishes and a clean dish cloth as well. Okay. Now, first of all, you need to line your cake tins, which we will do in just a moment, and preheat your oven to 180 degrees. So the sponge cake was first invented in the 1600s, but it didn't become popular until about 1860 by Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria loved having a sponge cake with her afternoon tea and a cup of tea, and they eventually named the sponge cake after her, the Victoria sponge cake, which is traditionally served with whipped cream and jam and strawberries. So that's what we're going to be making today. So first of all, you need to line your cake tins. I've already done one in advance. The best way to do it, get a baking paper, put your tray on top, get a pen and draw around it. Then with some scissors, cut around your line. Then you also need two other shorter pieces for your sides. Now this is, if I put that in there, it's a bit high. So I'm going to trim that down a little bit. And this one. Okay, and then I'm just going to put them together. Fold the edge, hopefully you can see that, over about 1 centimetre. Okay, so it's folded, got a crease line. Then, holding it nice and firm, you just snip little snips all the way along. Okay, bit of spray oil in the base of your tin first and up the side. Put your edge in with the cut sections into the base of the tin. And then your second one. So that they sit nice and flat. Now if it's folding in a little bit like that, you can also just snip a couple of little snips so that it sits firm against the tin as well. Then with your circle, place it in there to cover up all the little trimmings. Okay, so even though some of these edges are folding forward a little bit, once the cake mixes in, they will push back. Okay, and there you have your cake tins. Always line your cake tins before you start preparation. So the next step is to make sure you have all your ingredients out and all your equipment ready to go before you start beating. So first of all, I need to measure out my, I have 4 eggs ready to go. And I have 2 bowls for those, and I'll explain that in a moment. You need 3/4 cup of caster sugar or 190 grams. So I'm going to show you how to measure out using scales if you happen to have scales. So turn your scales on, have your bowl on top, make sure it's on 0, so you press the tare button for 0, and then you just put your, measure it out, 190 grams. Very important when you're making cakes that you measure accurately. Okay, so that the ratio of liquid to dry ingredients balances out and you have the correct consistency of the batter. Okay, so next is to measure out your flour. You need 3/4 cup. So what I generally do is have 1/2 cup and 1/4 cup, and you need a flat edge knife. Pop your flour in, a couple of taps to pop out any air bubbles, straight across, nice and level, straight into your sifter and your bowl. So that was 1/2 cup and then 1/4 cup. Same thing, tap to get air pockets out, scrape it across into the sifter. You also need 1/4 cup of custard powder. And that can also, might be a bit trickier to measure this. Same thing, make sure it's level. Add a little bit extra if you need to. Yep. So that's perfect. Okay, now you need to sift the flour and the custard powder twice. Okay, so that just adds for aeration and also removes any lumps. I'll do that a second time in just a moment. The next step is to separate the egg whites from the egg yolks. Now you can see I have 3 bowls in front of me. One's a cup and 2 bowls. One will be for the egg whites, these will be for the egg yolks, and this is my cracking jar in case I mess it up. Okay, because if you mess it up, you need to start again if you wreck all of them. Now some top tips when you're separating egg yolks from whites. One, you need really clean bowls, especially for the egg whites, so make sure your bowls are clean. A couple of sharp taps on the edge of the bench, break it into a cup, let the egg white fall out, and just very carefully backwards and forwards with the yolk. Be careful the edge of the shell doesn't pierce the yolk. Okay, then I can put the yolk in my small bowl, and then I can tip the white into the larger bowl. And I do that for each of my eggs. Be really careful not to get any yolk into your egg white because you want your egg white to stay nice and clean, which is why I'm doing it in the 3 cups. So if I accidentally break the yolk on this egg, I don't ruin the other one. Okay, so number 2, we have success. Okay, I'll go ahead and do the other ones while I pause this. So I have my egg yolks in this bowl and my egg white in this bowl. If you do accidentally get egg yolk into your white, just use the edge of a clean shell and just try and scoop it out. Same with getting a little bit of shell out if you need to, and it should come out pretty easily. If the yolk mixes through all the white, you're going to have to start again and get another egg. Okay, I'm sure your dog will lap up the egg if it's allowed to have that as its treat. Remember to clean up as you go. Eggshells in the rubbish bin and bowls in the sink to wash up later. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to beat the egg white. If you don't have a hand beater, electric beater, you could use a whisk. Okay, it will take a little bit longer, but a hand whisk will work as well. So I'm going to beat these up until soft peak or stiff peak stage. I'll show you what that looks like, and then we'll gradually add the sugar. Okay, so stiff peaks, it's hard to tell, but it looks like this. So it means when I lift it out, it forms a nice, like a mountain peak. It doesn't fold over softly. It stays pointing up. Okay, now you don't want to overbeat it, otherwise the egg white will start to collapse. The next step is to start adding the sugar. Now we add the sugar just a little bit at a time. I'll just bring the bowl forward. I'll just bring it a little bit. Now it's important to not let your egg white rest for too long because it'll start to collapse as well. So as soon as you've reached stiff peak stage, you need to start adding your sugar and add a little bit at a time. You need to add it in 4 batches. Turn it on, start low. You need to beat for about 30 seconds between each batch. Okay, so this takes 2, 3 or 4 minutes. Really take your time to add the sugar. You want the sugar to dissolve and becomes almost like a meringue. Okay? My egg whites are beautiful and light and fluffy. They won't tip out of the bowl. And once you've added the sugar, that stabilizes the mixture so the egg white won't collapse. Okay, so that's ready to go. My egg yolks are now neat. I've washed my beaters, and so now I'm just going to lightly beat them up. They don't need very long, they just need to be mixed together. Okay, and then now we need to add them all together. So we add egg yolks, flour and custard powder all to the egg yolks. My plastic spatula, my favourite utensil. Put the egg yolks in. And actually, I'm going to transfer it to a larger bowl so that it's easier to fold the flour in. I'm just going to put all that in. And remember I said I had to sift the flour twice. I've transferred the flour and custard powder into a smaller bowl, and I'm now going to sift it for a second time into the egg yolks and egg white mixture. Put to the side. Then with a large metal spoon, or you can do it with a plastic spatula, fold it through. So using that rotation action, just really gently cut through the mix and put it back on top of itself until all of your flour and custard powder have blended through and you can't see it anymore. Be careful not to push back and forth or to stir because you'll push the air out. You want to keep that air in there because that's what a sponge cake is, light and airy. We've just spent all that time out in the air. We don't want to push it out now. Okay? This is all mixed through now and looks pretty amazing. I did scrape down the sides of the bowl once and just scraped inside my metal spoon to clear that out of any mixture. Then we just put it straight into our cake tins. Try and divide it up as evenly as possible so that there's half in each tin. And using this plastic spatula again, scrape out all your batter into your tins. Then just using the back of the spoon or your plastic spatula, spread that evenly into the base of the pan. And these go into the oven for 25 minutes, okay? Make sure you set your timer, and while it's cooking, you need to start cleaning up, okay? I'll see you back soon. So I've cleaned up all my dishes, and now the next stage is to prepare for the cream and the strawberries. I've washed those in my sieve, and now I've just sat them on some paper towel to let them drain and to dry them. And I'm going to beat my cream. I've added half a teaspoon of vanilla in there. Now the recipe says 190 mils of cream. I've just used the whole amount. I'll whip it up and then I can use it for something else if I don't want it all for my sponge cake. Now the easiest way to beat cream I find is in a jug like this, or you can just do it in a bowl. Put the beater straight in, turn it on, and it should only take 1 minute of beating. Don't overbeat the cream, it'll turn to butter. Okay? So while I was beating the cream, I could smell my cake. So they actually only had 15 minutes, but I could tell they were ready. You can see they're golden brown on top. They're shrinking away from the sides, and when you press on it, they spring back. So that's how you can tell if they're ready. So to take the cake out of the tin, all you need to do is just gently press on the sides, tilt it over, and it should just fall out. Take the paper off, and then just let them cool down for a little minute. I've chopped up my strawberries, my cream is ready, and this is ready to assemble. Choose the one that you think looks the nicest for your top and which one you want for your base. Flip over your base. Going to just pop my jam on and spread that round. Next I'm going to put the cream on. So just dollop it on, be generous. Lots of cream is really nice. Again, just use the back of the spoon to spread that. I usually do it just a centimetre from the edge because once you put the lid on, it will ooze out a little bit. Then very gently pop the strawberries on. I forgot, so I'm just going to put them all on in the filling. And then we pop the lid on. And finally, a little bit of icing sugar on the top. And you have an amazing Victoria cream sponge. How good does that look? Enjoy, everybody. Have it with a nice cup of tea. Perfect for a cafe. Bye-bye.